Okay. So how many we have in the call now? Okay, three of us. So Harish and Hali are still not there. Fine. So yeah, welcome to the first session on the Azure Foundation course. So the first module basically it covers understanding of Azure Cloud Basics. What are the different terminologies that we use when we talk about Azure Cloud Platform, and we'll also take a look at different cloud provider and how Azure compares to those cloud providers. Uh, okay, so cloud computing we have already gone through in our demo session, how it started and everything. If you have any questions on that front, or if you still need an understanding on IaaS, PaaS, or SaaS, these are the three different service models that are available in cloud computing today. Let me know. I'll answer them here because those are the understanding which I'll assume that you have, and then we'll take it forward from there. Okay, so I assume that we are good on that. So yeah, different cloud platforms today. So we definitely know about Microsoft Azure, but the first one to come into this cloud platform was my Amazon with its product called AWS, which is Amazon Web Services. Most of the services portfolio for Azure and AWS are more or less similar only. So if you see virtual machines in Microsoft Azure, you would have the same virtual machines available in AWS as well, ranging from low one to high configuration ones. And the feature set is also similar. So there is something called as reserved instances within AWS. The same concept also applies in Microsoft Azure as well. So in terms of portfolio, there is not much big difference, but there are certain nitty-gritties under each services which makes it better than the other. For example, in Microsoft Azure, you have something called as a spot instance or a proximity group and a dedicated host. These are some of the features which are available on Azure virtual machines. Now, some of them are available in AWS, but some of them are not. For example, dedicated host. This is one of the feature that most of the enterprises today have been requesting from Microsoft, and we will take a look into detail when we go into the virtual machine module. But to just give you a brief overview of that, what dedicated host means is, see, today when we create virtual machines or any IaaS infrastructure in cloud platform like Microsoft Azure, what happens is behind the scenes, it will you just need to provide, okay, under which data center or under which region you want to create that virtual machine. You as a user, you have that only that option. And now under that region, there are multiple data centers. Now we don't know exactly on which data center or which uh, physical server rack on is my virtual machine is going to sit. So it could be very well possible that the same physical server is hosting multiple virtual machines for different enterprises, because that's the level of control that is not available with the users of Azure today. But enterprises have this concern, okay, um, if I move to cloud, I want to make sure that nobody else is using my, I mean, I'm not sharing my virtual machine with the same physical infrastructure with others. So that is where Microsoft Azure came up with the concept of dedicated host. When I say dedicated host, the actual physical server, which is there in the data center of Microsoft Azure, that entire physical server is dedicated for the client there. So let's say a big client, like so small and medium, or the those enterprises can't afford this kind of dedicated virtual physical virtual machines. It will cost you a lot. So but large enterprises, um, like for example, Adobe, they can afford all this cost, and they need security. That is the most important aspect of it, so that anything, if it is shared among different clients, there is a chance that the process which is common to both the virtual machines, there is a chance that I can, if I am able to explore, I can go in from one virtual machine host to another virtual machine host. So to cater to this requirement, uh, what dedicated host does it, the entire physical server is allocated to a client, and only that client can go and create virtual machines on that physical server. No other client can go, come in and say that I want a virtual machine and create on that. So Azure will dedicate that entire physical server to the client. So that's isolation basically at the physical level. So that is where the dedicated host comes in. So like this, there are many other features which makes Azure better than AWS. For that matter, even GCP, Google Cloud. So this is how the uh, current standing looks like. Now, people may argue, okay, why Azure is leading in this front? There are multiple parameters, right? When you try to assess the leaders in a particular area, for example, in cloud platform, um, there are three areas in which cloud platform delivers its services: IaaS, PaaS, and SaaS. So in IaaS, AWS has more market share as compared to the Azure. But when it comes to SaaS and PaaS, Azure has good service portfolio and it is leading in that front. There are other parameters as well, like how much is the revenue getting generated for each of these cloud businesses within the company. So Azure doesn't specifically disclose the Microsoft Azure portal revenue, but they club it into commercial business, cloud business, which includes Microsoft Azure, Office 365, Dynamics 365, these SaaS services as well. So if you compare, uh, Apple to Apple on that front in terms of revenue, then Microsoft Azure has around $20 billion revenue, vis-a-vis AWS, which is around $15 billion. Google Cloud is a very distant third. It doesn't come even close to Azure or AWS, both in terms of service portfolio as well as the revenues there. Now, Salesforce is very niche player in cloud. So when I say niche player, it only offers services related to its own product. So you can't go and create virtual machines in Salesforce for that. For example, Salesforce is a CRM based product wherein it only offers that CRM solution on the cloud. They have their own cloud. So it's a SaaS software. IBM Cloud, it is again another competitor in the cloud platform. It has almost all the services, even the like Azure and AWS has it, but it is not matured enough as the Azure or AWS is today, and the market share is also not in line with the other two. Alibaba, Alibaba is mostly dominant in China. Elsewhere, it is trying to pick up, but it is still very distant when it comes to the leaders here, the Azure and AWS. So these are the different cloud platforms. So why Azure then? So some of the reasons I have listed down here, why Azure and what makes it better than the other cloud platforms. So Azure is from Microsoft, right? So and Microsoft, if you see, it has long-standing, deep relationship with large enterprises and almost all the global businesses that you have heard of. So all these businesses already have a footprint of Microsoft products today in their IT landscape. If you speak of Office, or if you speak of Active Directory, Windows Server, or Windows Desktop, so these are all products which global businesses mostly use today, and these all products are matured enough because they have been using it from past few decades now. So and what Microsoft has done is all these products and their understanding, they have taken this to cloud. So if we talk about Active Directory, which is identity and access manager, The same product you would find for the cloud called as Azure Active Directory. This is a cloud-based identity and access management service within Azure. So you see the experience that they had with these global businesses and the learnings they had from this in building the products with these enterprises. The same learnings have been carried forward in the cloud. So that is one distinct advantage that Azure has as compared to the other cloud providers. And then they are leader in hybrid offerings. So when I say a hybrid, so today most of the IT enterprises do have their, have their on-premise data centers, and they are planning to migrate to cloud. So it won't be the case that you migrate entirely to cloud and you don't have any on-premise footprint today. What happens today is, okay, some of these services, or you will try to do POC and take one application towards clouds and see how it is behaving and how secure it is. Then slowly and gradually you will move on the applications to the clouds. It's not going to happen that all the applications that you have on premise will move on to the cloud, right? They have loads of applications, so it takes time. So you would end up in a hybrid scenario where you have certain applications in cloud and certain applications in on-prem. So there is an application dependencies, right? So how do you manage those application dependencies? Now the applications which are hosted in cloud needs to communicate back to the applications which are hosted in your on-prem. So you have this hybrid scenario. So there are a lot of tools and services available in Azure which gives you the ability to have that connectivity established and have that communication going on, even though if you move your applications from on-prem to cloud. So Azure has a very good offering with that respect. That is one area. And then second thing, it has more than 200 plus cloud services across different service models, IaaS, PaaS, and SaaS. PaaS and SaaS, I mean, there is no match to Azure when it comes to service offerings in the cloud. Also, identity offerings, right? So Active Directory has been there since ages now. So it is far more mature than any other product that you see in the market today. So it is a clear leader in that identity offerings. When I say identity, I'm actually talking about Azure Active Directory. That is one of the cloud service offering, and we will see in detail what that Active Directory is and how does it play a role in Microsoft Azure cloud platform. Any questions so far? Oh, Azure terminology. So I have added a reference link for you guys here. You can, I'll share this PPT with you. There's a reference link where you can go and understand different terms that we use within Azure. Some of the high-level terms I've included, which you will hear from us over this course, and these are very important to understand what what is Azure subscription, what is Azure account, what is Azure Active Directory tenant, what are the different deployment models, resource groups, resources. So we will try to understand this now. Uh, Let me actually open MS Paint and help you there. So the first term is Azure account, right? If you want to use Azure platform, you need to have an Azure account. That's what people would say, or you would normally hear. So what do you mean by Azure account? It's just like any other, right? If you want to use banking services, you need to have a bank account. If you have a bank account, you can transfer money to the bank, you can withdraw money from the bank, you can have account statement, all those features. So similarly, if you want to use Azure platform, you need to have an Azure account. So Azure account, you can open it today using your personal accounts, right? So let me. So you have this. If you want to use Azure, you need to have the selection. That means So you have Azure, write it down. Okay, you have Azure account. I am very bad in this. Okay, so let me use the notepad first. You have Azure account. This is where whiteboard would have been very helpful for me. Okay, Azure account. So you open that Azure account. You open, let's say, a free account. I'll provide you the link. How do we open the free account at the end of this session today? So free account. So you give details like your email ID, maybe your personal email ID. For me, when I opened account, it was this. I I'll use Microsoft account to open the Azure. That way, it is easier to track. So you have this Microsoft Azure account now. So when you open that account, there are two things that happens behind the scenes for you. Azure subscriptions get created. You have this Azure free subscription now, and Azure Active Directory tenant is associated with that tenant. Whenever you create a free account, these two things comes automatically. Now, what is Azure subscription? Now you have Azure account where you can now go and log into the portal, and you can start creating services there, start consuming the different services there. So when you log in, right? So you have Azure account. When you log in, who actually verifies that you have success? You have these credentials are valid. Behind the scenes, what happens is every Azure account, there is a subscription that gets created, and Active Directory tenant is associated with that subscription. So it is the responsibility of this Azure Active Directory, which has your credentials. So which will, when you log in, it will try to validate that credentials. So this is how you uh, validate who you are basically to Azure. And Active Directory behind the scenes does that all checks for Azure, and then it will and then it will log you in. So Azure Active Directory is the identity and access management tool. So this is cloud based. Okay, this is only cloud based. So there is, don't get confused. So people might talk about Active Directory and Azure Active Directory. So Active Directory is for the on-prem. There is an installation that you need to do, just like when you install Office on your desktop, right? You have to install uh, Office Excel or Word for that matter. The same way Active Directory, which enterprises uses to manage the credentials of their employee and manage the computers which are part of their enterprise. So that is done on the Active Directory. For that, which you need an installation on a server, and then you can create domains on that, and you manage the on your enterprise accounts on that Active Directory tool. Similarly, you have for the cloud Azure Active Directory. Now it is called, so when you create Azure account, there is a tenant that gets created. Now Azure Active Directory, you don't need to install anything. It is already there available. You just consume it. It is like a SaaS offering where you don't have to deal of any of these, layers that we talked about. So it's already available there. It's a multi-tenant application. No, SaaS are all mostly they are multi-tenant applications. When I say multi-tenant, it is something that different users can, different enterprises, companies can use the same service. So each company is represented as a tenant. So for example, when I created my account, there is a tenant that is associated with me. So I am the whole sole owner of the Azure Active Directory, that tenant. Nobody else can manage that tenant on behalf of me. So it is like it's like a personal instance created for me out of this Azure Active Directory service, cloud service. So I can go and add members to that tenant. I can give access to you guys if you by providing your email address. So you'll get an invitation, and then when you accept that invitation, you get onboarded to my Azure account, and I can provide you authorizations on what all services you can create within my Azure subscription. So that way I can control the access, and I can control who can use my Azure subscription. So that is Azure Active Directory for you guys. It's a identity and access management tool. So this gets created an Azure subscription. Now Azure, so there needs to be a boundary, right, to manage, to get billed, and to have administrative, the boundary there. So Azure subscription is one such parameter which is defined in Azure today. So Azure subscription, that is one billing entity, you can say. This is where the billing, all the resources that you are using gets billed at this level, at this scope. And you can manage different entities at this high level scope called Azure subscription. So we'll take a look in the demo when we go through how this Azure subscription looks like. So all the resources by default when you create within Azure, they would require Azure subscription because that needs to be hosted under some umbrella. So that the high level umbrella is Azure subscription today. So so if you face any issue today and tomorrow you go and create a support ticket with Microsoft, they will ask you this detail: what is your Azure subscription? Give us your Azure subscription ID and all that. Based on that, they can identify, okay, this resource belongs to the, for example, for me, Vishnu.upala, based on the subscription ID. And so that is how it is segregated within Azure platform. So if you go and create your own account, you will have your own subscription ID, and that way, any resource that you create within that subscription only belongs to you. It also helps in naming the subscription. So now I can have a virtual machine called Vishwanath, and you can create a virtual machine within yourself, so within your subscription. So there are certain ways you can segregate this, because if there is no such boundary, if I create a virtual machine with that name, you might not be able to create that virtual machine with the same name. So that's Azure subscription. Things becomes clear when we actually go and take a look at the Azure portal. Coming back to Azure deployment models. Now there are two ways you can deploy resources today in Azure. So when Azure started its cloud platform, it was called as Azure Classic Azure Service Management layer for deployment, or the people call it as ASM. They also call it as Classic portal. So the very first version of Azure Cloud Platform was Azure Service Management, or the Classic portal. The way resources are deployed in Classic model is very different from today the newest version of Azure, which is called as Azure Resource Management, or in the short term it is called as ARM. Okay, so this is the latest way of deploying the resources within Azure. So there is a distinct difference in how the resources within Azure gets deployed using these two models. So right now, this is obsolete. Only certain services which are still being used by enterprises, for them there is a support to deploy resources using this model. But Microsoft would recommend to use Azure Resource Manager if you are planning to do any new deployments. This will be gradually phased out. This is something they are actively supporting and upgrading this model. We'll understand that in detail, what Azure Resource Management is. So the API, so behind the scenes, what happens, it is all, if you see, right, it's all portal today, web portal. You just go and, click on certain entities in the Azure portal and a resource get created. So behind the scenes, what happens if it is a web portal, it's all HTTP communication, right? In the internet, it's all HTTP communication. So a REST API call goes back. Now that REST API for ARM is different than for ASM. How it has been designed in Azure Resource Management is there are multiple resources. So the cloud platform has a very standard set of APIs that it uses to deploy resources. Now that standard set of APIs in the V2 version, this is also called as V2 sometimes, Azure V2, and this is also called as V1. So in V2, you have a standard set of APIs to create resources, whereas in ASM, the APIs that are there are very specific to the resources. So when I say very specific to the resources, let's say if you create a IaaS virtual machine in VM, so the API would be very different from when you try to create a storage account, for example, in this. So, so this was a challenge for Microsoft to have, to manage this various APIs, because there is no single pane or there is no single control pane where I can, if I uh, uh, change anything here, that gets automatically reflected for ISVM. So I had to manage different versions of the same API, because underlying, if you see, they had to manage the virtual machine, the physical, uh, and the virtualization software is similar to all these API, to all these resources within Azure. So there would be certain common things among these APIs which you need to manage. So managing these APIs within Azure Service Management was difficult, because they had to, whatever changes they had to make here, they had to make for storage as well as for other services. So imagine if you have 200 plus services, and if you have 200 different APIs to manage, how difficult it would be. So that is when Microsoft came up with a standard set of APIs, and they call it today as Azure ARM APIs, ARM REST APIs. So today the API is pretty much standard across all different Azure resources that are available in Azure today. So if you make a change to common set of features within that API, that gets applied to all the APIs. I mean all the resources within Azure. Now to understand this, there are two major concepts that you need to understand. That is something called as Azure resources and Azure resource groups. So Azure resources are the individual or services that Azure Cloud has to offer you, like virtual machine, storage, disk, or SQL database, or web app, or even the Active Directory tenant. These are all individual resources within Azure that you can go and create today. Now, all these resources needs to be grouped. This is mandatory. There is no choice. You have to group those resources under an umbrella called as resource group. Now, why do you need resource group? Why do you need to group them? The basic strategy behind grouping them is to manage those resources as a group vis-a-vis managing that resources individually. So why do you need to manage resources in a group, you may ask? So if you create an application today, right, you won't create a single resource and you are done, done with hosting that application on the Azure. There are different components that you need to, there are different resources you need to create to host that application. For example, if I want to host my IIS, my website on Azure, so first you have to create a virtual machine. That virtual machine itself has multiple other related resources created with it. Like you need to have a disk associated with it. When I say disk, OS disk needs to be associated with it. Data disk where you can store your data, like C drive or D drive, that needs to be associated with it. Then you need to have the network. You need to put that virtual machine inside a network. So in Azure, every virtual machine that you create needs to have a virtual network associated with it. So virtual network is another resource within the Azure. So all these resources you need to group together because the life cycle is same. So if tomorrow you go and delete that application from Azure, you don't want to go and delete individual resources because there are many such resources. So if you just go and delete the resource group under which all these resources are hosted, automatically all the resources get deleted because the life cycle is same. So that is the concept behind resource groups, to group all these resources under one umbrella so that you can manage those resources very effectively. We'll take a look at in demo. And this resource group and these resources form the base for Azure Resource Manager. So if you look at this diagram, you have Microsoft Azure cloud platform under which when you create an free account, an Azure subscription get associated with you. And this these resources are provided by something called as resource providers. So there are different resource providers. Like if you go and create a storage, there is a storage provider. Now this storage provider is responsible for creating a storage account for you. When you put a request in the portal, okay, I need a storage account. So resource provider will take that request using the REST API and it will create a storage instance for you and allocate that storage instance in your account so that you can start using it. So this Azure Resource Manager uses this concept of resource provider. So every resource within the V2 model, you have a resource provider there, and underneath you have this ARM API. So this is nothing but Azure Resource Manager APIs, which take that request, and these APIs are common across all the resource providers. Okay, and this will expose certain API endpoints through which the resource get deployed in the Azure resources in the Azure. So you have this. This is not part of your subscription. If you see resource provider and Azure Resource Manager, this is part of the platform itself, the Azure Cloud Platform, and this is common to all the Azure subscription that get created. Underlying, this is the technology that gets used to create the resources. Now, when you create your Azure subscription, you would go and create certain resources and you would have a resource group. So that is specifically part of your subscription. You own those resource groups, you own those resources within that. Like here, web app, storage account, SQL database, you have that as one resource group where you have these resources are used to host your LOB application. And there is another workload where you are hosting your let's say website. So you have two different virtual machines, storage account, virtual network, and database there to host your website. So that is grouped under another resource group. So two applications, two resource group we have created. So we'll take a look into detail in the demo there when we walk through the portal. In fact, let me actually take you there so that we are in sync. So I already have here portal.azure.com. Okay, so we have already gone through how the portal looks like the previous session. So let me start creating here. So if you see, this is my account, and I have few subscriptions, and these are the different Active Directory tenants. So if I go to switch directory, so these are all the directories that I have. So I have 4 directories that I'm part of. I may be a owner of those directories. I may not be. If somebody has, like if you have created your own account and you have your own directory and you give access to me in your own directory, that directory will get listed here. But I would not be the owner of the directory. You would be the owner of the directory, but I can see it because I can access your Azure subscription. And there is a directory associated with it, so the directory gets listed here. So I'm just a member of that Azure subscription but not a owner of it. So likewise, I have these 4 directories, so that means I have 4 tenants, Active Directory tenants. So inside this directory there are certain subscriptions. So if I go to subscriptions, okay, so this is the subscription that I have under the PAM trial directory. So Visual Studio Enterprise subscription MPN. So this is one subscription I have. So if I switch directories, you will see that I would have other subscriptions. So if I let me switch to this one, technify.in. Now here, if you see, I have a lot of other resources. So this is the subscription that I normally use. Now, if I go back to subscriptions and see here, so I have these are there are two subscriptions within this Active Directory tenant. So the mapping is like this. You would have one subscription associated with only one directory. You cannot have one subscription associated with multiple directory. But a directory can have multiple subscriptions. So that is what you're seeing here. So under this directory, I have two subscription. In the other directory, I had one subscription. But this subscription cannot be associated with two directories. That's not possible. Only one directory can it be associated with, because that is a higher level entity. So under this subscription, I have multiple resource groups. So the hierarchy is like this. You have Azure account, okay, then you have Azure subscription, which is you have a tenant associated with this. Let me just, this is Azure tenant. Then you have Azure subscriptions under those tenants, and then you would create Azure resource groups to host your Azure resources. Then you have your individual Azure resources. This is at the high level, the hierarchy looks like. So that's what we have seen. We have seen subscriptions. Now, when I create a resource, the first, normally I would go and create a resource group. So there are multiple ways to create resources today. So one is you can go and search by that name, or you can go to all services, or if you have marked those services as favorite, you can just go here and click on create. This is one way. So let me go through all services here. So all services, I want to create a resource groups. So here you can come here as into this. So these are all the resource groups that I've already created. Let me create one. So I can click on add here. So see what's happening is behind the scene, this is all HTTP REST calls that are going, right? So these are all ARM APIs. So when I say in the diagram, if you see, these are the endpoints that it calls REST API endpoints. So this is called as ARM APIs, Azure Resource Manager APIs. So whenever, so I'm trying to create a resource now. A resource is like a resource group is another is kind of a resource only within Azure. So I need to choose. So these are the two mandatory things I have to select. By default, if you have marked, okay, this is my Azure subscription. This is the default subscription where I want to create my, you need to associate a default subscription. So if you have an Active Directory tenant, so if you, when you have a tenant and if you have multiple subscriptions within that, for example, subscription 1 and subscription 2. So you need to actually mark one of these subscription as default, so that by default, whenever you create any resource, the resources gets created within those subscriptions. So I have marked one of my subscription as default. So that is the reason you see this subscription getting auto-populated here. I can very well go and choose the another subscription if I want to, but for now, that is okay. Then I can, and then the resource group. So I need to give certain name. So this is the common thing. So almost all resources that you create, there would be a name associated with it and a subscription under which you go and create that resource. So let me give us like Azure training day 1 resource group. Now there are certain characters that are not allowed. That is listed in the documentation. I can point you there. Okay, so this is the resource group and the region. So these are like common parameters. So subscription is common, region is again common. And you need to specify where you want to create that resource, in which region you want to create. So these are the multiple regions which are available. If I want, I can choose India. Let me go and choose India. Okay. So what would happen is now this is the only parameter needed to create this resource. And now for other resources, there could be more or less parameters depending upon what kind of resource you are trying to create. Right, this. Okay. Then if you want, this is an optional thing. You can provide tags. Now, tags are a way to, uh, it's like a metadata that you attach to each resource. So if you want to query tomorrow, if you want to monitor resources, and you want to monitor, certain kind of resources, for example, you want to monitor all the resources within the HR department, right? Uh, or you want to see the billing of HR, all the resources under HR department. So what you can do is you can tag all the resources that you create for HR department here. So I can say that, okay, department as HR. And now when I query, I can query when I want to monitor, I can say that I want to monitor all the resources which has tag department HR. That way, I will get all the list of resources which are part of this department. Or if I want to see billing, the cost of all the resources within department HR. So this is how I will go and filter it out. So tags helps you managing things, grouping things at a logical level. So I can say this, and then I can also say, okay, within if normally enterprises have multiple environments to host their resources. When I say environments, it's like you have production environment, you have non-production environment, you have testing environment. So that is another common parameter that people use to group their resources, so that it is easier to so you don't want to accidentally go and delete a production resource, right? So you want to have different access management for your production resources. So that is how so if you specify that as one of the tags here, you can manage those resources separately, and you can provide different access management based on those. So I can say I can mark environment as training. So we are training. So this is like this is a resource which I've created under training environment. This is all optional. If you want, you can give it, or you can leave it blank. It's not necessary. But the best practice is to go and mark those entities. Going forward next. So it will do the validations, basic validations, whether the name and everything is all correct. And then you can go and, if you click on create, our REST API call gets submitted. If you see here, a REST API call gets submitted to ARM. Now ARM will provide that to the resource provider, that request, based upon what kind of resource you are creating. So if I'm creating a virtual machine, a compute resource provider will handle that, and then it will create a resource for me. So that is how the deployment is handled within Azure Resource Manager, using Azure Resource Manager. This is a deployment model. This is one of the deployment model. For ASM, we'll look into in some other session how the deployment is handled. So let me just go and create. It will take few seconds. I think doesn't take much time. It got created now. So once it is created, it will. If you just go here to the notifications, okay, it got created. So we are directly taken to that resource. Okay, there are a lot of things happening here. So what you see is this. This is the name that you gave, and this is the resource group. This is this kind of what kind of resource it is. It's a resource group resource, and you can start adding resources within this resource group now. You can go and delete that resource group. You can move resources under these resources to another resource group if you feel like. There are many such things. So you can see the tags that we gave. And the advantage of this, we said, right, there are certain common things this API provides to all the resources. What are those common things? what are those common features. So this is where you will see it. So overview, you will see it in almost all the resources that you create. This option would all this menu option will be there for all the resources. Normally you would see the subscription under which you have this resource, and the subscription ID, and if any tags. These are the high level things you will see across all the resources that you create. Then there is something called as activity log. This is again common to all the resources. So these are the common features uh, which you would see across all the resources. That is when I say the V2 model has a common standard API. So let's say tomorrow, if you want to bring about any changes to activity log, you want to add certain fields there. So you don't have to go and manage all the APIs, differently. You just make a change at one place and it gets reflected in all different places there. Vis-a-vis, if you use classic model there, you had to make those changes in all different APIs. So that's the advantage of V2 over V1. So activity log, access control is again common. Now, here you can actually say that who has access to this resource group. So if I include other members, right, so they can go and see these resources. So let's say if I include someone called Sunil, so he is one of the users in my which I've granted access to my Azure subscription. So if I add him, he can go and okay, he doesn't have access. So if I want to add, I can just click on add here, add a role assignment, select a role. So what kind of access would he have? So would it be a reader or a contributor or a owner? Reader means he can go and see the resources, but he cannot change that resources. He cannot go and modify the different parameters of my resources. Contributor means he can go and change certain things within this resource group. He can create new resources within this new resource group. Owner and contributor are the same roles, except that owner can assign another user also to this resource group, but contributor cannot assign another user to this resource group. Except that there is no other difference between these two roles. So let me just add him as a reader for now, and I can select the user, Sunil, here, and then I'll just save it. Now even he can see all this resource group and all the resources that I've created within this. This is identity and access management. Behind the scenes, what is happening is it is using Active Directory service to manage. These role assignments get created within the Active Directory. These users are part of that Active Directory tenant. Okay, and another common set of things that you would see is this monitoring. You would see almost in all resources there would be a metrics tab where you can go and monitor your resources. Okay, then there would be something called as properties. So you can see the properties of those resources. Like we created this resource group in Central India. This was the name that we provided. Now every resource that gets created would have a ID associated with it, and you can see the entire URL for that here. So you see, and then there is a subscription under which it got created. So these are some common set of features that you would see across all resources. That's what we call it as. Any doubts so far? Any questions, or you're able to follow? Okay, so this is very important. Okay, these are the foundation or basic to understand. Okay, when somebody comes and say, okay, create a resource using V2 model, you should understand, okay, what V2 is versus, or they can also say ARM, and create a resource in the ARM model. So vis-a-vis ASM. So let me actually give you a quick glimpse of ASM, what it looks like. So there are certain resources which are available in the classic model still. So virtual machines, if I say virtual machines, see there is this virtual machine. You can see virtual machines here, and you can also see virtual machines specifically tagged as classic. So when you create virtual machine using this option, you would be creating a virtual machine using this classic deployment model. Okay. We will take a look at in different session there, but this is and there are not many services available using this classic model. So one is virtual machine, that there is something called as storage. Also see storage account classic and storage account. This is the V2. So if you don't see any classic there, that means it's a V2 resource or ARM resource, and it's not. And if you see a classic, that means it's a ASM1. Simple distinction there. See, disk also you can create classic models. Okay. So hope you have understood those two terms. That's a quick go through of that. So how you can create resources, right? So we have different deployment options that I have. So when I say deployment, different ways I can provision resources within Azure today. So one is through this portal user interface. You can come and just walk through certain steps, and you can create resources within that. So behind the scenes, what it does, it uses REST APIs, right? So that you can very well go and call the REST API using something called as Postman. If you have that entire REST API URL, you give certain parameters to it in the body or query, and then it will go and create that resource. So instead of coming to the portal, I can go to, let's say, Postman. If you have Postman, now this is a utility basically where you can do API testing, and you can call APIs. So till the time opens, okay. Different ways to create resources, right? So I can go to I can call APIs and I can create resources. I can create virtual machine. I can create resource group there. Same way, there is something called as PowerShell. So PowerShell you might be familiar with if you've used it or you're familiar with the Windows. So I can just type in my Windows here, PowerShell. Yeah, so I can use this PowerShell, Windows PowerShell, to create Azure resources. Come here. There are certain commandlets you need to import. So module you need to install. So Azure module is there. So if you install that Azure module, you will have certain commandlets available for you, and you use those commandlets to create Azure resources. So this is one way of creating it. So PowerShell is mainly for Windows, right? So there is something called as for Linux environment CLI, which is basically a bash shell. You can go and create Azure resources using that bash shell as well. So these are different options which are available for creating resources within Azure and managing those resources here. And something called as ARM templates. Now, ARM is Azure Resource Manager. So Azure Resource Manager template. This is another way of creating resources. So let me actually give a demo of that in here. So if you go here, you have already created a resource group, right? So let me take you there. Okay, Azure resource. This is the resource group we created. Now, if you are using this V2 model of deploying, you will get these templates. You can export that template. Now, this is basically, you can write some code. It's not a code. It's basically a declarative statements that you have given. It's a JSON. It's a JSON file, and it describes. Let me go to the scripts template. Yeah. So you can use this JSON template and submit it to the Azure portal, and then it will go and create this resource group for you. So this is one way of doing it. You can just write code and then and create resources within Azure. So let me actually create one resource under this resource group, and then we can see how we can use ARM template. So if I go and add a resource here, right? Let me create a virtual machine. Okay. So for creating virtual machines, there are certain images you need to create. So there are multiple images available. So you can create a virtual machine which has operating system Red Hat Enterprise Linux, or you can create Windows virtual machine. So let me search for Windows. In fact, here you have to search for images in this Windows server. Okay, so I can create. So this is one image Windows server. So what are images? Basically, you can have multiple images, right? You can have image for Visual Studio. What would happen is if you create a virtual machine with that image, so once that virtual machine gets created, you would have an operating system of of your choice, Windows Server, for example, and that inside that Visual Studio would already be installed for you. You don't have to go and install separately Visual Studio. So such kind of images are available here. So there are a lot of there. So IIS on Windows Server. So if you create this kind of virtual machine, Windows Server 2019 operating system would be there, and IIS server will be pre-deployed in on their server. Then you can create a Tomcat on Windows Server 2019, or Tomcat server would be already available when you create the virtual machine using this image. So let's create a basic Windows server machine. Okay, it's a Windows Server 2019 image. So let me go and click on create here. Again, right, as I said, so if you see there are a lot of parameters it takes. So there are multiple individual resources that gets created when you create virtual machine. So what are they? We will just note it, okay? I'll just add it below. You are trying to create a virtual machine. Okay, so what are the different resources that created? This is important to understand. Okay, so we'll go through and then we'll understand what it is. So subscription, this is again common, under which subscription I'm going to create. Resource group, for each resource you create, you need to have that resource group. For only resource group, you won't have a resource group. Then virtual machine name is common. So let me trace VM day one. Region, this is again common, so let me put it as Central India. Okay. A thing to note here, actually, good that we are here. So if you remember, the resource group that I created was in Central India, the location that I gave, the region that I gave for it. But here I can select all other regions. I can go and create this virtual machine in any other region. So there is no restriction as such that if you create a resource group under a region called Central India, you have to create all the resources for that resource group under the same region. There is no such restriction. You can very well go and create resources for different regions. So here I can, for example, I can select South India. I can go and create resource there, although the resource group is in Central India. Availability options, just leave that for now. Image. So I want Windows Server 2019 server image. There are multiple images that you have seen. Spot instance, leave that for now. Size, this is important, certain mandatory. What kind of size? Okay, it seems like I don't have access to create here in this particular region. Let me select West US and then click on size. Not even in West US, East US. Okay, yeah. So there are certain restrictions. So this is not my subscription. I am not the owner. Someone else is the owner. So they have put certain restrictions. Okay, I can create only virtual machines in this region. I cannot create in other regions. So that's why if you see, I select South India. I don't have that option to select size because I am not authorized to create a virtual machine under that region. So East US, I am authorized to create region. So I can select and the size here. So if you see now, these are all enabled for me. So I've just, by default, it will select some default size for you. You can go and change that size here. The size again depends, RAM, how much RAM you need, how much CPUs you need, how many data disks you need. And accordingly, you can see the pricing over here. So if I select this size, then ideally this is the cost I would get, 250 rupees per month if it is on, for the entire month. So RAM I'm getting is 0.5 MB RAM. That means it's not useful for me. So I have to log in. Don't get confused. Okay, this is 0.5 MB RAM. This is 0.5 MB RAM available for you, other than the operating system RAM that it uses. Okay, so if it's like, it's not like 0.5 MB is the RAM where your operating system resources will also be hosted there. So this is something which is available for your consumption apart from what is already there for the operating system. Okay, so size I've selected. Then I need to give some credentials so that when this virtual machine gets created, I can log in to that virtual machine using these credentials. So let me give it. Okay, so what do I give? Azure user. Password. There are certain restrictions in how, in what the length and the complexity of the password. So you cannot give a simple password. Okay, then inbound rule. So this is important. Okay, so if this virtual machine gets created and you don't have access, you don't have this port open. I hope you understand all this stuff, remote desktop protocol, right? And inbound ports. So to access a virtual machine, you need to have the network ports open. If those ports are not open, you cannot access those virtual machines. You cannot log in. When I say you cannot access, you cannot log into those virtual machines using a RDP protocol, for example. So you need to make sure that this RDP port is open. Allow selected ports. So there are selected ports. If you are hosting any website, so you need to open HTTP and HTTPS traffic. And if it's a Linux machine, you need to open SSH port. Okay, so we'll open RDP port here. Then this is an interesting. So if you already have a Windows Server license, you can you can leverage that here, and you can say, I have that, and you confirm it. Then the cost will reduce for you because you don't have to pay for the Windows Server license. Right now, I don't have it, so I'll select no. So I would be billed for Windows Server that I'm licensed as well. Okay, so if you see, okay, that's the basic level details for the virtual machine. If I close, the next thing that I would like is I need to specify here while creating virtual machine is a disk. Now disk is another resource. Okay, it's another resource altogether. But that disk resource needs to be associated if you want to create a virtual machine. So disk is the first resource that you have seen. What is disk? So you have two types of disk: OS disk, where your operating system will be there. Then you have data disk. Now this is an optional. You can have data disk if you want to have that external extra drives to store something like D drive or E drive. Now C drive would be your OS disk. D and E drive, if you want, you can have it. So those would be called as data disk. So if you come here, OS disk type, and now different cost is associated and different performance are associated with this different disk type. So if you choose HDD, the IOPS would be little lower. So this is common to when you purchase a laptop, right? You have the option to go for HDD or SSD. SSD are high performance disk drives versus HDD. So I'll select HDD for now. I don't want to have that high performance today. Encryption type, so leave it for now. If you can encrypt your disk, right? For ideally, when enterprises create Windows Server, they would want that disk to be encrypted so that even if somebody gets hold of that disk, you cannot decrypt it and see the content. So data disk is an optional. If you want, you can create data disk here. For now, we will leave it there. And then go to next. Next is the networking. Now, networking is another resource. Under networking, also we have multiple things like virtual network. We would need a public IP, and yeah, so these two things we would need to host our virtual machine. So we need to keep our virtual machine under some network. So by default, it will give okay, it will suggest us to create a new virtual network. If there is already one virtual network, we can select that. For example, I've already created these two virtual networks, but for now I'll select this. I'll create a new virtual network. So the name and everything, if you don't like it, you can go and change it. You can by clicking on this, and then you can go and change that name. Okay. And then yes, so when you create a virtual network, there is some address space. So just leave it for now. Don't get to those details. We will understand that. Then you have public IP. This is another resource. So public IP is needed because you, when for now, when I want to access this virtual machine, I will be accessing it on a using a public IP because this is hosted in the cloud data center and it is exposed via the internet for me. So if anything, any resource you want to host on internet, you need to have a public IP to access that. That's a mandatory. So we'll have this public IP and leave those things for now. RDB port we already spoken. Okay, so these are the two resources we're creating. Then coming to management. So management means you want to monitor that resource. If there is any issue, you can look at the logs and see. You can also look at how you are utilizing that machine. What is the CPU percentage you're using at different point of time? What is the RAM usage? All that thing you can monitor using this. So these are default settings. If you want, you can do auto shutdown. This is option available for you at this time of the day. It will go and shut down the virtual machine so that you can save cost. If you think that, okay, I want this virtual machine only in the daytime, not in the night time, you can specify, okay, night 9 p.m. or 7 p.m. just shut down this machine. I'm not going to use it. So it will automatically shut down and you will save cost because if the machine is shut down, the resources behind the scenes like CPUs, RAM are not getting used. So you will not be billed for that duration. Next, we will go. So there are a lot of parameters if you see when we are creating virtual machines. Extensions, host group. So host group, like we talked about dedicated host, right? So this is that thing. VM generation, there are multiple generation there. So we're not going to, then tags. This is again common. If you want, you can, so let me tag it as department HR, just for, okay. And then environment, since we are already doing it, environment is training. And finally, we come to this. Is everybody there? Hello, Chandra? Okay. Chandra was trying to call me, so I was just think he joined this meeting is not that fine. Okay. Yeah, yeah, I'm done. So once this virtual machine, I just wanted to walk through, then I'll be done here. Are the people still there? Okay, okay. Okay, so I'm done here. So this is how, so then you can go and validate all the parameter values that you have given here. And then just click on create. If the green check marks come, then it is all good. And the deployments get submitted. And you can see the status of that progress of that deployment here. It takes around a couple of minutes before it gets created because it has to create that many resources. So we'll stop here. It was a quick overview of Azure, and that's. I hope you were able to follow and understand these terms now within Azure. Yes, so this is the link actually. That is the last part of it. So you can go to this link. Go to this link, right? So you can click on start free, and then you need to provide certain details to register, like your email ID and stuff like that, and provide your credit card details. You won't be billed for it. That just to verify that you have a valid credit card, it will just do $1 transaction or ₹1 transaction. It will revert that back. And then you will have, once you do that, you will get an email where you can, then try go and log in as a subscription, get free as a subscription will get created for you. So I already have one, so that is the reason I am not able to see that. But for you, you would get that registration page. So this is the link. Basically, you need to use that link and register. You'll get a free account. If you face any issue, do let us know. Okay, any questions before we end up today's session? So the exercise is go and create a resource group and virtual machine and create that free account first. Okay, you can use the Teams as well if you have any questions. I have messaged you. You can reply here as well, or you can put it on WhatsApp as well if you feel comfortable there. Okay, thank you guys. So I'll just stop sharing.